What's up, Wargamers? We're back, and this is Budget Wargamer, and we're here to talk things Games Workshop related. So normally we talk about 40K, or we talk about Age of Sigmar, and occasionally we talk about other hobby games. But in this instance, we're actually going to talk about another hobby game from Games Workshop, one that you guys are probably familiar with, whether or not you've actually played it. I'm sure all of you have seen at least one of the movies from the Lord of the Rings franchise and or read one of J.R.R. Tolkien's books. This is a game that originally came out as a Lord of the Rings strategy battle game back when I worked for Games Workshop. So this was in my college days when this first came out, when the first Lord of the Rings movie came about. And it was Fellowship of the Ring, I believe, was that starter box. And it was a real basic starter box, but the game itself brought about a mechanic at that time that was nothing like Warhammer 40,000 or Warhammer Fantasy, and it was very refreshing for them to offer what has tried to be for this entire time. And we're talking about, 15 years or so, I'm thinking it's been, because I think it was about 2003 at the time when this game might have come out, give or take. So for 15 years, believe it or not, this Lord of the Rings game in one iteration or another has gone through various versions, and some of these models are actually even that old. So this is a game that I actually thoroughly enjoyed, but I haven't kept up with it, so I couldn't tell you anything on the basis of how the current edition is going, how the previous editions have played in most recent times, because I know they did revamp it when the Hobbit series came out, and they changed it more to the Middle-earth strategy battle game since it wasn't based solely on the Lord of the Rings series. But now that it's the Middle-earth strategy battle game going into a brand new edition, a new starter box is out. A lot of these miniatures are reprints from years ago, so Games Workshop is going to be making a serious mint on that. But they do have the Nazgul on the Witch King on Nazgul. They do have the foot and mounted king for the good guys, and a plastic cave troll. And I think the cave troll may have been out for a little while, but or not a cave troll, but a Mordor troll, something like that. So some of these models are somewhat new or newer than I haven't noticed, but it's a fairly good value. And what I really want you guys to take away from it is this is potentially something to consider that's not only part of a greater lore, and it's also brought to you, of course, by Games Workshop, a great miniatures company, so you know the models are going to be good, albeit Lord of the Rings is not on a heroic scale, so the models with flimsy legs and arms and bows and things like that tend to be a little bit more breakable than your typical Warhammer Age of Sigmar 40k pieces. They're not as chibi, they're not as 32 mil. These are more like typical 25 mil Perry miniature style. But let's take a look, because this starter set is apparently going to be one hell of a value. Not this collector's edition. I want to get down just to the base starter set. And I wanted to hear from you guys in the comments below. What are some armies that either you've already collected, that you've got sandbagged, put away, and you're looking forward to potentially trying out with this new set of rules? Or what are some of the armies that you want to pick up? And I think that even though I've got some of my books that I had spiral bound back in the day, I may have gotten rid of most or all of my models. And even so, there's still some models I'd like to pick up that I'd like to show you guys. But the starter set definitely appears to be a good value. You're going to get 2 boxes of Riders of Rohan, 1 box of Warriors of Rohan, and it looks like 1 box of the Dead King. Forget what they're calling those guys. It'll tell us here in the special edition Warriors of the Dead. But then you're going to get a Mordor Troll, 36 Morannon Orcs, which I believe is 2 boxes of Morannon Orcs. And then you're going to get a Witch King on Fell Beast or Nazgul. So this alone is like a $60 model, this Witch King on Nazgul. So for $150, you're going to get good value in models. And then these are actually some pretty decent ones. The Morannon Orcs aren't your typical unarmored orcs, and they're not your Uruk-hai either. But they tend to be a fairly stout orc model to play with. But let me go over some of the models that are in the series. Some of them you guys might remember from watching the movies. But from a price standpoint, what I like about this is a very affordable game to get into. Battles tend to not be very large. What you see in the starter box is, from what I remember, generally about 2/3 of what an army would be. So you could even just play that as is right out of the box. And I played many a games in that model count size. But let's take a look at some of the other ones so you guys can get a sense of some of the cool stuff that's out there. So the Haradrim Raiders, they've got them with the Mumok, which is like the giant war elephant. Let's go into those sets. and take a look at what is there, so that I'm not seeing at this point. Here we go. Alright, so we have the Forces of Mordor. This is a collection that basically, if you were going to get the starter box, this is a starter box plus some. You're going to get some Warg Riders here in the back. You're going to get some of the more regular orcs. I wouldn't necessarily go this route, not to mention it's also pricey. You're basically buying the cave troll or the Mordor troll and the Nazgul at full retail price, because it doesn't appear to be that these collections have any sort of discount on them. Here's the Haradrim Charge Collection. I like this one because this is an awesome model. The Mumak is an awesome model. You're going to get 2 boxes of the Riders, and then I think you get 2 boxes equivalent of the Haradrim troops. So this is probably ready to go right out of the box. A fully buildable army, a fully playable army. The dwarves are cool. I do like the Dwarf Ranger models, which weren't pictured there. And then here's some really large sets if you want to do some sieges. But here's one that I think this is the one that I never collected before, which is a great reason to pick it up. I won't feel like I'm repainting or rehashing out my previous painting sessions from before. But these are the Easterlings, and even though it looks like these guys are all on foot, there's 2 boxes of the Easterlings cataphract, the knights mounted in the back, and 2 boxes of the troops. So you could say it's a good value, but it is a good value. You're not saving anything by buying them this way, but for $144, this appears to be, for all intents and purposes, a fully fledged army. And in the Games Workshop universe, especially with a licensed miniatures game like Lord of the Rings, that they have to pay some sort of royalty for or purchase a license agreement for, that is one hell of a deal. And these are going to be all plastic miniatures in this particular set. And I'm just curious to see what you guys are thinking. Are you guys stoked about the prospect of the Middle-earth strategy battle game? Is it something you're going to pass by? Give me some feedback in the comments below. I'd like to hear from you guys. And stay tuned to Budget Wargamer for some more hobby and gaming news.